All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Good morning. My name's Major Ryan Ressler from the Maneuver Requirements Division and the Maneuver Seated. I'm the ground vehicle electrification lead within the directorate. I'd like to first thank everyone for attending today's Warrior Corner. My hope is over the next 50 minutes of the presentation and the discussions afterwards or the questions that they're informative and they get after what you want to see in this event. With me today is Mr. Steve Herrick, who's a product lead for ground mobility vehicles out of PEOCS and CSS. He and his team are leading the electric light reconnaissance vehicle prototyping and development effort. Bottom line up front is that we're continuing to move out on ground vehicle electrification, as we feel that electrification holistically is a game-changing field that has applications across multiple fleets and portfolios. Today, we're going to cover two topics. First is the direction the Army is going in terms of efforts related to tactical and combat vehicle electrification and that initial capabilities document, followed by an updated status on the electric light reconnaissance vehicle effort. And then if there are any questions out there online, please send them and we'll get those up and we'll answer any questions you have. All right, moving on to the next slide. I know many online know what the TACV ICD is, but for those who don't, I'll provide a quick background of our approach to ground vehicle electrification. In mid-2020, we assessed that the maturation of technology and affordability in this realm hit a sweet spot, and that now is the time to prioritize militarized electrification from a requirements perspective. We moved out and worked with a community of interest to include industry to inform the TACV ICD. The intent behind the document is to give capability developers the ability to incorporate aspects of electrification into future ground vehicle systems. We know that energy on the battlefield is a commodity that takes complex lines of communications to assure. The ICD is designed to address this in relation to our doctrine, cross-domain maneuver, and in turn support multi-domain operations. We look to enhance our formation's ability to compete and maintain dominance during a combined arms maneuver. We believe electrification will enhance effectiveness, again, of multiple fleets and formations. And to get after this, we're interested in the characteristics you see on the screen down there below the two pictures. The benefits we seek are in form of signature management, both acoustic and thermal, increased mobility, class 3 demand reduction, offboarding power, microgridding, and the simplistic drivetrains that electric motors provide. We believe increased maintainability, sustainability, and supportability from electrified drivetrains will facilitate smaller support areas, reductions in force structure, and the ability to adopt novel sustainment concepts. Our goal is to extend operational reach, duration, and dispersion in support of semi-independent operations. All of this gets after commanders better control of tempo and momentum through reductions in the logistical tail and improvements to lethality and survivability of units. Through the ICD down there on the bottom right, the Army is focused on 4 pillars that we believe will drive innovation within our fleets. That is advancements in power generation, power storage, power distribution, and power management. In May of last year, we hosted an electrification industry day where vendors brought electric platforms and allowed us to collect data. The event enabled us to prove out a lot of the benefits you see on the slide in a military setting. Resulting from that event, it showed us that electrification in the light vehicle fleet is feasible now. Our focus now is setting conditions to ensure that we have a well-informed pathway moving forward. This slide that you're seeing now depicts how we believe ground vehicle electrification will impact maneuver at the operational and tactical levels. The ICD breaks down electrification into near, mid, and far-term objectives, as you can see on the slide. These correlate with the light, medium, and heavy vehicle fleets. Our focus now is informing the light vehicle fleet in the near term and to start looking towards the medium vehicle fleet in the midterm. In the near term, we believe we'll see quick improvements in signature management on select systems that provide opportunities to gain positions of advantage during maneuver, contributing to that increased lethality and survivability of units at the brigade and below. Additionally, in the near term and midterms, we can achieve initial class 3 and 9 demand reduction through implementation of hybrid systems, anti-idle technologies, and electrified auxiliary systems. Through a random study and future templated Army studies, we intend to continue the work with that community of interest to include industry to identify a logical and feasible path to electrifying our formations. In the midterm, we believe we'll see larger reductions in class 3 and spare and repair parts, and this will allow us to shrink that logistical tail and support areas, enabling greater duration, dispersion, and enabling flexibility in sustainment operations. Again, we're working to determine where does electrification make sense and through what approach on each system creates balanced solutions. By doing this, we believe we'll provide a foundational competitive advantage over our adversaries for a long time to come. The last thing I'd like to address on this slide is that we're working with stakeholders to set conditions to inform far-term objectives. These objectives are primarily focused on the heavy vehicle fleet and all electric capabilities. Feasibility to introduce all electric capabilities will be dependent on technology that can support sustainment solutions able to power these capabilities in the far term. All right, moving on to this slide here. This slide depicts areas where current electrification initiatives are aligned to the TACV approach. Quick status on the TACV ICD is that we've just obtained validation through the JROC in December. Oh, thanks. I went too far. Quick status on the TACV ICD is that we obtained validation through the JROC in December and are currently awaiting AROC validation, which is expected soon. Like previously mentioned, an electrification community of interest has come together to inform, synchronize, and team on advancing electrifications holistically in the fields you see under current efforts. As a community, the Army is focused on those efforts down there, and I'll quickly highlight a few subject areas where we can discuss more in depth in the question and answer session. First, through ELRV prototyping, we intend to inform how range extension, hybrid systems, and potentially all electric vehicles will perform in military use cases. We believe through previous research and studies, these capabilities have a role within the light fleet, like previously mentioned. The soon to be released RAND study is going to inform feasibility in these areas. Second, we're looking to inform what fleets fit best with which powertrain or demand reduction technology. Other areas where the Army is involved in advancing knowledge and technology include power storage, distribution, and recharge technologies. There are all active efforts going on in these areas now. The community is also looking at opportunistic tactical recharge for battery dominant hybrid systems, as well as the far term objective of what recharge capabilities can develop to charge all electric platforms. Again, this begs the question on how will we generate large quantities of power such as all electric systems need at the tactical edge. Finally, we're looking at .mil PFP implications, both positive and negative, to inform the broader path forward of formational electrification. Key takeaway from this slide is that we will not field a capability that hinders the warfighter, and believe that advancements in these areas will provide warfighter foundational enhancements over time. The slide you're seeing now is a graphical depiction of the TACV ICD in relation to the direction of industry. As mentioned, the ICD is broken down into those near, mid, and far term objectives, and those correlate with each of the vehicle fleets, the light, medium, and heavy. To note, delivery of the capabilities on this timeline may cross over as technologies work themselves out over that long period of time, that 2050 plus. In the near term, the overarching community of practice is focused on informing feasibility of electrified capabilities such as ELRV, JLTV, Humvee, and Bradley Hybrid through a number of initiatives. These initiatives primarily focus on the light vehicle fleet first and will inform development and fielding decisions in the near and midterms. In addition, there's organizations in the Army who have started looking at feasibility of electrification of that medium vehicle fleet. All of this feeds the broader objective, again, of determining feasibility at the formational level. Far-term goals include integrating battery density that can support combat platforms and determining how we generate, store, and transport large amounts of power on the battlefield at or near the point of need, specifically calling out that mobile nuclear power plant in the far term. One thing we do know is that we'll continue to experience inevitable increase in power demand as we develop capabilities and applications to maintain a dominance on a fast-paced and increasingly lethal battlefield. On the right side of the chart is our electrification approach. As we've maintained since the start of our effort, we intend to move forward with industry and leverage COTS, non-developmental items, and developmental acquisitions to pace the speed of innovation. We also believe modularity will play a significant role in platform development to ensure we can refresh technology over the life cycle of these vehicles. As we move forward, we're setting conditions to leverage modeling and simulation, prototyping soldier touch points, developmental and operational tests, and potentially an AOA-like study to inform the Army's path forward with tactical electric vehicles. One other thing I'd like to point out is our prioritization factors, which include first and foremost alignment to warfighter need. The remaining variables include technology maturation, available resources, vehicle life cycle and divestiture, and return on investment. These will all play in the decision-making on the what's next or the path forward for electrified platforms. Moving on to the next slide. Covering down on the electric light reconnaissance vehicle. I know that many in the audience have probably seen this chart before. This chart still maintains relevancy, as you'll hear from Steve, that the team is working hard to set conditions to jumpstart this program as soon as funding is received. For those of you out there that haven't seen this chart, it depicts our desired characteristics for ELRV, the electric light reconnaissance vehicle. On the left side of this large display box are our desired capabilities. In the center is our approach to prototyping, and to the right are the ways we plan to refine the requirement as we move forward through the acquisition strategy. The initial purpose of ELRV prototyping is to prove out and build a militarized electric powertrain. Following that by selecting and fielding a capability to the warfighter and to the IBCT. We seek a light reconnaissance vehicle to ensure scouts have the capability to conduct reconnaissance forward and motorized IBCTs that have ISVs and MPFs, effectively supplementing or complementing those vehicles. Hard requirements include capacity, the ability to seat 6 scouts and maintain squad integrity, and then electric propulsion and transportability. Priority capabilities in early prototyping are bolded in the slide to the left, and they focus on the electrification aspects of the system. One of the highest electric priorities in early prototyping is power storage. The benefits from electrification stem from how much onboard power is on that platform. Below that is what we're calling the ELRV power triangle. We desire silent mobility and extended silent watch to the greatest extent practical and seek to balance that with vehicle automotive power and range. What we're essentially saying is under the Scout mission profile, Scouts can never have too much silent mobility or silent watch. These attributes all pull from the total amount of onboard power, which factors into overall duration of the platform. We seek to provide commanders that ability to turn the dial and balance these attributes in the triangle with their specific mission set. If it's a screen line, they can move into the hide site and balance it to silent mobility for a certain amount of time, and then turn it back and put the majority of the power on silent watch. Or if it's a road march, it may all go to vehicle automotive power. So that's the kind of the tailoring we're trying to get to on this. Our goal in prototyping is to determine what's in the realm of possible, allowing us to refine the requirements as we move through the acquisition strategy that Steve will cover. To support this, we've worked with ACM Recon and ACM IBCT to develop an ELRV ConOp that will be used to support the prototyping effort and development of the system. All these touch points you see on the screen will support the CDD and form Army leadership of the operational viability of a purpose-built electric platform, and in general, electrification as a whole, and define performance parameters and .mil PFP implications. At this point, I'll turn it over to Mr. Steve Herrick, to cover the final two slides, and then we'll open up for question and answers.
Thank you, Major Wrestler. As Major Wrestler highlighted, I am Steve Herrick. I'm the product lead for ground mobility vehicles. Underneath my portfolio is the infantry squad vehicle, the Army GMV 1.1, as well as this New Start program, the electric light reconnaissance vehicle. As Major Wrestler highlighted, over the past couple months, we've had effective time to refine and adapt our facts and assumptions and constraints as we pursue the electric light reconnaissance vehicle program. The ACDD was approved last year, and we have marched on through to get the funding in the proper verbiage in our R forms to accelerate and have a new start in FY22. So to this date, the key facts are PEO, CS, and CSS is designated as the Office of Primary Responsibility. That has been delegated down through the analysis as an ACAT 3 program that will fall up underneath my office and product lead ground mobility vehicles. The fact, as we demonstrated last year, is that industry, particularly the automotive industry, is aggressively pursuing this in this space. The capabilities are ready now. We saw several capabilities here at Fort Benning that demonstrated within 12 weeks, 30 days, 60 days, and separate events that we've traveled to other industry partners that have demonstrated the capability of electric light reconnaissance vehicle and its essence. Those will be defined and refined over time as we get funding to allow industry to develop those requirements with us. Those balance within the assumptions that are listed on the slide. Achievable now. We look at the assumptions of the battery technologies and the energy densities that they will advance rapidly. We cannot look at this program as a solution that is a time now instance. We have to be able to develop, iterate, and prototype on the move and refine and be acceptable to this trade space, because it is going to be a space that we can maximize capability and operational capability over time, iteratively and efficiently and effectively in a rapid manner. What Major Wrestler highlighted too is partially the modularity. This gets to the MOSA concept, having an open system architecture that we can better assign offboard power, battery management, switching between operational capability to a silent watch and not on the move operational tactics. The constraints. The obvious one is that we are still in a CR. ELRV, public knowledge, went up as Chief of Staff of the Army UFR, unfunded requirement FY22. The authorizers and the president signed the NDA that agreed and concurred with the plus up. We are waiting on appropriations to see if that is matched, but there is no budget right now to initiate this program. So I want to be upfront and honest that that is one of the major constraints. Our team is ready now to issue, and we're developing the request for prototype proposal. We're ready to issue a draft to industry, and we've had several industry engagements to date that we have shown that we are ready when the chalk line gets snapped, we can execute. And then finally, on the constraints, we do realize in this iterative process and this rapid development in industry that they will move faster than we do. So we have to be aligned with industry software and battery development and work concurrently with GVSC, AFC, and all the components within the Army to make sure that we are aligned as we develop the prototype, that it may not be the same chemistry or battery technology that we entered prototyping, but the modularity, the essence of an ELRV is what we signed up for, and the guts is the only thing that changes. For those on the line and in the room, some of you have seen this chart before, but I will tell you it is new. We have looked at the program schedule based on the appropriation, based on the funding. The original draft that we published assumed a funding being issued in October of last year. That is no longer status quo. So depicted are year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, specifically to not reflect a single fiscal year because we don't know when the funding will drop. However, the program strategy remains the same. It is what we've briefed in the past. The RPP development is ongoing. And if you were to look at this and assume an appropriation drop in March, that would be when you anticipate the first RPP draft drop. We are looking to engage industry early and often, as we've done throughout this process, and we will do it iteratively, consistently, and frequently prior to the final release of the contract. The key acronym there is an RPP. For those in industry that understand that term, that is an OTA focused contract. We haven't determined the consortium specifically that will go through at this time, but it will be an OTA to a either FAR-based contract for production or an MTA, middle tier acquisition rapid fielding, because we realize in this space, it is going to be an iterative rapid capability enhancement tool. So we have to be able to move in increments with this capability. What I'd like to highlight as well is for those that have seen this chart before, as I mentioned, the concept remains the same. What we've done is stretched essentially the build phases, as well as the iterative do loop circles that we intend to engage soldiers, industry requirements, and the acquisition community in a continuous process to refine phase 1 into what I'd like to highlight finally, the CDR, the CDR phase. And I'm sorry, it's not showing up here, but it is in first quarter of year 3. The first phase focuses on primarily bring what you have. Do you have a capability that meets the baselines of the essence of an ELRV? The closer you are to a militarized solution, the better feedback you'll get during DT and the better feedback you'll get at the soldier touch point. That CDR event in that first quarter of year 3 will be your azimuth check on whether or not your risk to transfer from a bring what you have to 3 militarized prototypes in that second phase, if they meet that, if the risk is low enough and there's non-developmental items, we will move and award those vendors that can move into phase 2. Phase 2 build, as you can see on the chart, is a ×3. Every vendor, we assume four vendors, 3 prototypes apiece. That will be a militarized phase where we will attack an operationalized soldier touch point at a CONUS FORCECOM unit yet to be determined. And then finally, what you don't see on this chart that some have seen in the past, this is meant for an industry focus briefing and chart, but below this are internal Army operations. So from phase 1 ending into phase 2, there are separate lines of effort that we have worked with G9, G4, CASCOM, and other folks to align a maintenance and facilitization study as we move through this timeline. The goal here was not to put it too early in the pipeline that we don't have results from a DT to determine that something is way off base, but allow information flow as we move through this phased effort. So the whole ELRV effort is a campaign of learning, as highlighted previously, to continuously adapt electrification at a smaller scale, determine and find our assumptions, facts now, and make it scalable for the long range planning that Major Ressler highlighted. That is all I have on this final chart. And I will turn it back over to Major Ryan Ressler for the summary.
Yeah, so closing out, I think the summary slide speaks for itself. We're working part of a larger community throughout the Army to inform electrification and field an initial capability that will provide enhancements to the warfighter in the near term. At this time, I think we could open it up for questions, and Steve and I will just take turns at the podium for that. But any questions, please, by all means, send them online or in the room.
Will ELRV be electric or hybrid?
So from an acquisition perspective, the question was, will ELRV be fully electric or hybrid? Major Wrestler and the Maneuver CDID have left those doors open. We are willing to let industry prove us right or wrong in that space. We've seen initial intel of a pure electric with a range extension or a mini APU, a range, 12 kilowatt little JP8 mechanism. We've seen serial and hybrid, or serial and parallel proposals as options. So we are leaving the door open because I don't think we fully know and realize some of industry's capabilities that are proprietary at this point and how they actually perform in a full electric environment. It may prove some of our assumptions correct, and it may prove some of our assumptions wrong. So we are open to both hybrid, full electric, and whatever else industry determines fit to meet the ELRV needs.
And the beauty of the acquisition strategy that Steve's developed is it's going to inform electrification as a whole as the first purpose-built electrified platform, but it'll inform it for the entire Army for multiple fleets or multiple vehicles in the light vehicle fleet. So there's a lot to be learned from ELRV prototyping that will improve the Army's knowledge on this tenfold. So this is a key program from our perspective as we move forward with it that we're in full support of.
How will you sustain the vehicle in a field environment?
So sustainment of the vehicle, part of the requirement is that the vehicle has to be self-supporting using current logistics systems in an austere environment. So while we think that all electrics out there, we think bottom line that there's going to have to be some kind of class 3 being burnt to support this vehicle. Like I said, this vehicle is going to be self-supporting. Now, there might be opportunities if it's a hybrid system for an opportunistic recharge, which the acquisition strategy covers. And I'm sure Steve will want to talk to that. But, a self-supporting platform that does not limit the warfighter at all, in the current logistical set, how we operate and how we conduct log pack, similar log pack times, that has opportunities for opportunistic recharge to when that vehicle comes off the objective, we can pump electricity in it and refuel it so that it's fully set, ready to go for the next mission.
Yeah, so to further expound on that from an acquisition approach, what's not seen in the charts that were presented within the RPP and the request, there is a built-in requirement and a request to develop a recharge capability to get an early look. If we're testing at Aberdeen and if we're testing at a FORSCOM location, guess what they don't have? Recharge capability. So we'll get an early look within the prototyping phase, whether a vendor brings a trailer mounted generator, whether they have a hybrid solution, because that log pack and that recharge is the same answer we have now. It's JP8, dump more fuel in it. But if it's a pure electric solution, you will be expected to bring a capability to the test site and to the soldier touch points to demonstrate and show that you can operate your ELRV proposal in a pseudo austere environment. So it'll give us an initial look within this platform on what it may or may not look like and where the risks actually are. Is it a 1 trailer per 6 in a platoon? Is it every ELRV has a generator? Is it something else? Is it a fuel blivet that comes in? We don't know. So we're open to all of industry's feedback, and there is built-in hooks in the acquisition strategy to allow for that look into recharge, whether it's JP8 dumping fuel into a hybrid, or whether it's a recharge capability. Yes, sir.
You don't see any,
Sir, from an acquisition perspective, because I get to see it a lot more than most, I will tell you that there's certain prime contractors that we deal with that specialize in AI, Super Cruise technology. Once you have the hooks of electrification, vice an internal combustion engine, you allow for that conversation to happen. So there's a lot of proponents and ideas, and we're still in that phase of, do we put hooks in there either at an objective level or a more credit level to move you on to the next phase if you offer those hooks. So an ICE engine, internal combustion engine, doesn't normally allow for that conversation to happen without an adaptation. Once you integrate that capability of electrification as the primary propulsion unit, you can have that AI and autonomous discussion a lot easier.
And most of you can.
Yes. Yes, sir. The question was, does an electrical architecture allow for that more open architecture approach? It does, but we have to be very cautious, right? It becomes in our authority to operate, our ATOs, our cybersecurity, and how we actually protect that capability. So it absolutely does, but we have to do it surgically.
are you looking at reducing the electromagnetic spectrum signature of these vehicles?
So Steve, I think you talked to this yesterday. I know that GVSC, the Ground Vehicle System Center, is looking into this, and early results of kind of what's being seen from the community is that it doesn't add to or take away necessarily from EMI. Anything to add to that, Steve? Roger. Yes, sir.
Sir, what we've seen, and I know this is Major Wrestler's lane more than mine, but the operational impact that this has from a acoustic, thermal, and detection capability is unparalleled. It's inherent to that capability.
That needs to be one of your top. I would more of the top. The attributes, but I mean, I know it's one of your key attributes, but just based on the difference. It's not good.
And sir, I'm not sure if you're in Austin, but we did, at AFC, we did visit a vendor that's north of there that is specializing in that capability, mainly in the textile domain. But they're looking at vehicle level, because although inherently we achieve some of those capabilities with the electrification, if there's going to be trade space of no armor or clear doors, we need to have something else that maybe canvases or protects from those signature management aspects. So not only are we looking, and we've just recently added this because we've had conversations of, to keep it light in this room, whether you're on a planar view or if somebody's looking from top, the way I see you is a little different. So I can protect this way pretty frequently, but we know there's something always going on with counter UAS and everything else. So we are looking at it, sir.
Is the Army watching the Strategic Capabilities Office Project Payload to deliver a long-term solution, or is AFC considering an internal Army effort for mobile?
So we are monitoring the MNPP program and Project Pele. We've been in coordination in the past with that office. Right now, that is a far-term objective for us. We do not foresee all electric capabilities running around the battlefield in the near term. However, now's the time to start informing that and having those discussions early, and developing sustainment solutions to get after that is essential. And that should be a building block that, you know, getting point of need power or large quantities of power generation near the point of need is essential to everything we do. So right now, our focus is in the near term, hybrid or battery dominant hybrid, potentially some all electric solutions if they have sustainment capabilities that come with it. We've left that open, but all electric capabilities run around the battlefield everywhere, and Project Pele, it's further out. But if we don't tackle that problem and get the hooks in for S&T and development now, we won't be able to transition there. So I think it's a concurrent effort, and it's a very important effort. Anything to add to that?
Is ELRB looking to implement MOSA specific standards?
Well, I think I already touched on MOSA. I don't know what GCIA is, so I'll have to do some research. There's much smarter people than I, but that'll be a do out. We are definitely looking at MOSA as being a foundational point of ELRV.
Have you given a time requirement to recharge the vehicle to return the full battery power?
So no requirement has been set as of yet. We have desired capability characteristics in an ACDD that is approved at the current moment. However, we're not looking to get outside of current log pack times. It's essential if we're going to provide this capability to the warfighter that we maintain at least what the warfighter has now, but improve upon that. And based on current technologies we're seeing out there, recharge capabilities, it's achievable. We can do that. And like I said, for an ELRV, it would be an opportunistic recharge more than likely to get after recharging that system.
Large format electrified platforms display different responses to breached or ruptured battery cells. What can you say about how the Army is viewing platform survivability requirements?
So I can't speak to it in depth, but Ground Vehicle Systems Center has current efforts going on in this realm right now, and they are informing this. And in the light vehicle fleet hybrid solutions, we do not anticipate any issues with, you know, if a battery's damaged, it becomes unstable and further injures or causes injuries in addition to what the hit already caused. That being said, the Ground Vehicle Systems Center is actively looking into this. Steve, I don't know if you have anything to add to that. But we're, you know, as a community, you know, and I'll go through a list of just some off the top of my head organizations. We've been informing these in parallel or in tandem to get after this, but, you know, FCC, AFC, they got a Vertex event, energy event coming up that's getting after electrification. The FCC's work in the Army alternative or operational energy strategy to look at alternative energies and how we operationalize that. And then just a number of organizations, SC did, the Sustainment C did, GVSC, Defense Innovation Unit, SOCOM, Rapid Critical Capabilities and Technology Office, PEO CSS, or CS and CSS, the ground and sister services we're working with, along with allies. So there's a large community that we're taking a look at all these different things and informing this as we move forward. This is not being done in a vacuum.
What initial prototyping benchmarks are being considered for recharging time, battery life cycles, recycling, and replacement?
Can you talk that one? I don't know, 10 to 12 years.
Yeah, so each battery chemistry we're learning has a different repair and a demill time, essentially. And it's very battery dependent, chemistry dependent. The first initial question, I would say, highlights to what Major Wrestler talked about is we're open to recharge times, limiting and not exceeding current refuel and recharge times. I will tell you, we can flush and dump JP8 a heck of a lot quicker than we can do electricity, and we probably always will be able to. But what is that time hack? Is 10 minutes? Is 15 minutes? Is it 80% battery recharge? If it's a battery dump, is that good enough? So it's target of opportunity, as Major Wrestler highlighted. What we're looking at is, from a recharge perspective, is we're open and we're waiting for industry and to inform us what's capable, because there are some solutions that are extremely proprietary and competitive right now, that is not known by the public market.
Yeah, and I just want to add to that, again, it goes back to modularity. So this is an opportunity in my mind. We have an opportunity to keep these vehicles in the life cycle, extend their life cycles by introducing new battery technologies onto it. If the systems are developed right, to insert updated batteries and auxiliary components to that, to allow for farther, quicker recharge times, increased battery densities, and all getting after increased duration.
Are you attending the ARL Vertex event?
Yeah,
ASC Vertex?
yes, both Steve and I will be at that event. Yeah, and we'll be on multiple panels, but we are looking forward to being there for that.
Will ELRB be equipped with onboard recharging ports for organic soldiers?
From a perspective of another vehicle in our portfolio, the infantry squad vehicle has the ability to do the universal battery charger, whether that's conformable batteries or your man pack radios. That was probably one of the biggest takeaways in likes, was having the ability to reduce load and not have to carry 4 batteries, where I could keep one on the charger and one in my system and swap them out. So you can allow for more beans and bullets, essentially. So we will definitely, and it's included in the acquisition strategy, to look at organic squad level recharge capabilities, not only mainly from a soldier level, but also from an exportable. If another ELRV pulls up next to me, that we can swap, or if a CTT or some other asset in the future comes up, that we have the ability to organically support that infantry division. Question was, how much is physics a problem? I will tell you, we've seen it. ISV has to be no more than 5,000 pounds to meet the high sling load capability. It inherently drives commercial technology and robustness of the platform, how much payload capability you are doing. Here we have some initial desired capabilities of sling loadable by a CH-47 and LVAD capable. That boxes our physics strategy in a little bit. We're looking at it from a different site picture with ELRV, where you may have an organic base platform weight, but instead of targeting the vehicle curb weight, I emphasize the capability that it needs to grow to, just in case a commander wants to make the decision to put armor on, or maybe instead of 117 Golf radio, I want 5, right? So we're looking at it from the transportability perspective to the swap and mission equipment package capabilities from an organic current scout platoon, what they operate with, whether it's TOW, Crows, 50, Mark 19, and then the organic C4 ISR. So it is a physics problem. It's not I can't have this and that. It's either you get this or this. So that's one we always struggle with from both a commercial industry side and an acquisition community, that we will balance appropriately. The key is highlighting those desired capabilities that are essentially KPPs and do not cross.
What serves as the foundation for electrifying tactical vehicles?
Serves as the foundation. I take that as more of a path forward question on where we plan to go from here. Is that how you kind of read that, Greg? Tactical wheeled vehicles. Yeah, there you go. Yes, sir. Yeah, roger that. Yeah, the baseline is cross domain maneuver in support of multi-domain operations and ensuring we get that increased duration out there in the field that can allow units to operate dispersed and you know, increase that survivability and lethality.
Last question I have is, when will we release the request for proposal for ELRD?
So as I highlighted on the previous slide, all things panning out correctly, whether appropriation or not, we are on a path to look to March for an initial draft RPP release. That draft may or may not include your down select criteria similar to you know, a section L or M in an RFP, but we will release as much as the scope as we feel appropriate at this time to get early industry feedback. Following an anticipated appropriation and moving forward formally, we'll look to release more of that RPP in either April or May timeframe with to include procedurals or attachments that are required for the prototyping effort. So the timeline right now, as it stands, assumes a budget in March, but we don't know if that's going to come to fruition or not. But the timeline as it stands is what my office and my team is marching towards. So highlighted there, fourth quarter of August, or fourth quarter of year one. That would be August of this year. If we get an appropriations, that would be when you would see the final OTA request for proposal.
All right, well, that closes out this Warriors Corner on electrification. I appreciate everybody's time and participation and all the questions for this event. I don't have a contact information slide on here, but if you need to get a hold of me and you're prepared to copy, my email is ryan.r.ressler, ressler.mil@army.mil. Please feel free to reach out and we can continue the dialogue. Thanks again.